What if the move that ends up haunting the Boston Celtics is not the one they made, but the one they did not wait for? Sometimes in the NBA, timing is everything. One day you feel confident that you made the right decision. A few days later, the landscape shifts. A door opens somewhere else, and suddenly that same decision looks a lot more complicated. That is exactly the position the Celtics may find themselves in today after a blockbuster trade that sent Ivica Zubac out of Los Angeles and into the Eastern Conference. A trade that raises an uncomfortable question in Boston. If the Celtics had just been a little more patient, could they have landed the star center they had been quietly chasing for months? And if the answer is yes, how much will that missed opportunity matter moving forward? For a long time, Ivica Zubac was one of the worst-kept secrets on the Celtics' internal wish list. League insiders consistently connected Boston to the Clippers' big man as a potential solution to their long-standing issues at the center position. Zubac checks a lot of boxes for a team like the Celtics. He is big, physical, efficient around the rim, strong on the glass, and reliable defensively without needing the ball to be effective. He is the type of center who complements stars rather than competes with them, and that is exactly why Boston's front office kept circling his name as the season progressed. Earlier reports suggested the Celtics were not just passively interested, they were actively exploring ways to get him. At one point it was reported that Boston had even floated a significant offer involving Anthony Simons, a first-round pick, and a future pick swap. At the time, the Clippers were not interested. They were winning games, playing some of the best basketball in the league, and still believed in their current core. From the outside, it looked like Los Angeles had no reason to make a drastic move, but the NBA changes fast. What looks stable in December can look fragile by January, and over the course of just a few days, everything changed for the Clippers. Despite their strong stretch of play, internal tensions surfaced, particularly involving James Harden. That situation reached a breaking point, and Los Angeles made a shocking decision to pivot. Harden was moved to Cleveland in a deal that brought back Darius Garland, signaling that the Clippers were no longer all in on the same vision. That alone raised eyebrows around the league, but the real shock came shortly after. Just days later, the Clippers pulled the trigger on another massive move, sending Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown to the Indiana Pacers. In return, they received Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks, and a second-rounder. With that trade, it became clear that the Clippers had officially turned the page. This was no longer a team trying to squeeze one more run out of its current core. This was a franchise resetting its timeline, cashing in valuable pieces, and preparing for the next era of basketball in Los Angeles. For Celtics fans, this is where the regret starts to creep in, because once that deal became public, one question immediately followed. Could Boston have beaten that offer if they had waited? Just days before the Zubac trade, the Celtics used their most important trade chip. They sent Anthony Simons and his expiring $27.7 million contract, along with a very appealing second-round pick, to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Nikola Vucevic. At the time, the move made sense. Boston addressed a need, added a veteran big, and avoided uncertainty at the trade deadline. But in hindsight, that decision also removed them from the Zubac conversation entirely. The timing could not have been more cruel, because had the Celtics waited just a little longer, they might have found themselves in a position to engage the Clippers at the exact moment Los Angeles decided to sell. And once that door opened, Boston arguably had the assets to step through it. To understand why, you have to break down what the Pacers actually gave up. Indiana paid a steep price. They sent an unprotected first-round pick in 2029. They also included a 2026 first-rounder with complex protections. If that pick falls between 5 and 9 overall, it conveys immediately. Otherwise, it turns into a 2031 first-round pick. That is real future value, especially for a franchise that believes it is on the verge of contending. On top of the picks, the Pacers included Benedict Mathurin, a former high draft pick with clear upside, flashes of scoring ability, and the physical tools to be a long-term contributor. But he has not fully put it together yet. He is also approaching a point in his career where a new contract is coming into play. Isaiah Jackson was also part of the deal, a solid rotational big with athleticism, but not a player who dramatically moves the needle on his own. So what were the Clippers really buying here? If they view Mathurin as a true building block, someone they are excited to develop and eventually extend, then this deal becomes very difficult to top. Boston does not have a young wing with that exact profile ready to be moved. But if the Clippers instead see these players primarily as salary flexibility and draft capital, the picture changes dramatically. In that scenario, the Celtics could have absolutely entered the conversation. Simon's expiring contract would have matched money cleanly. Boston could have matched or even exceeded Indiana's draft compensation, especially when you factor in the second-round pick that eventually went to Chicago. The Celtics have future picks, swaps, and flexibility that would have allowed them to go toe-to-toe with the Pacers in negotiations. The difference comes down to timing and perception. When Boston made its move for Vucevic, The Clippers were not yet sellers. They were still chasing wins. They were still invested in the present. From the Celtics' point of view, waiting may have felt risky. What if Zubac never became available? What if the Clippers stayed the course? What if another team jumped in first? Front offices are forced to make decisions with incomplete information all the time. But the reality is that patience sometimes creates opportunity. And in this case, patience might have given Boston a real shot at a center they clearly valued highly. Now the consequences of that missed opportunity are amplified by where Zubac ended up. Not in the Western Conference, but right in the Celtics' path. The Indiana Pacers were already a dangerous team when healthy. Now they have added a legitimate interior presence who fits perfectly alongside their core. Zubac gives them size, rebounding, and stability in the paint, areas where they previously had limitations. If Tyrese Halliburton returns fully healthy next season, the Pacers instantly look like a serious Eastern Conference threat, a team with pace, shooting, playmaking, and now a reliable anchor inside. That makes the road tougher for everyone, especially Boston. The Celtics are still a great team. They are still loaded with talent. They are still very much in the championship conversation, but the margin for error in the East just got thinner, and knowing that Zubac was once a realistic target only adds to the frustration. This is not about saying the Vucevic trade was a mistake. It addressed a need and brought in a proven veteran. But it is about recognizing how quickly circumstances can change in this league. One decision closes one door while unknowingly leaving another just out of reach. At this point, there are no do-overs. We will never know how serious the Clippers would have been about engaging with Boston. We will never know if the Celtics could have outbid Indiana in a meaningful way. All we know is that a center Boston liked is now on a rival, and that rival just got significantly better. Sometimes regret in the NBA is not loud or immediate. It is quiet. It shows up months later in a playoff series, in a matchup problem that keeps reappearing, in a player you have to game plan against instead of building around. And that is what makes this situation so fascinating and so painful at the same time. The Celtics made a move, the Pacers made a bigger one. The Clippers changed their direction, and the Eastern Conference shifted in the process. Whether this moment becomes a footnote or a turning point will only be decided on the court. If you enjoyed this deep breakdown and want more honest NBA analysis without the headlines and hype, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments whether you think Boston should have waited or made the right call when they did.